You might think that getting good with money is all about being a math whiz, right? Spreadsheets, complicated budgets, all that stuff. But what if I told you the real secret to financial success has almost nothing to do with numbers and everything to do with the stories we tell ourselves? That's exactly what we're going to dive into. Okay, let me ask you something, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. No judgment here. If you got hit with a surprise $400 expense tomorrow, your car breaks down, a sudden medical bill, could you cover it with cash, without reaching for a credit card or asking someone for a loan?
Well, the Federal Reserve actually went out and asked a ton of people that exact same question. And the results? They're pretty eye-opening. Look at this. 63% of folks said, yeah, I could handle it, but a staggering 37% said no. Let that sink in. That is more than a third of the country living just one small emergency away from a real financial crisis. And you know what? This isn't just about how much money someone makes. It's a mindset problem. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
So, to really get why so many of us struggle, we've got to dig a little deeper. We need to look at what's called our personal financial blueprint. Think of it like this subconscious program that's been running in the background, making all our money decisions for us since we were kids. And most of the time, we don't even know it's there.
And this blueprint? It's basically built out of something financial psychologists call money scripts. So what are those? They're the stories you tell yourself about money. There are these super deep, unconscious beliefs that you picked up when you were a kid. They're like this invisible force that's pulling the strings on everything you do with money. Why you save, why you spend, and yeah, why you stress about it.
Okay, so researchers have basically boiled it down to four main types of these scripts that pretty much run our lives. As I go through these, I want you to think, hey, does that sound like me? First up, you've got money avoidance. This is the person who kind of thinks money is bad or dirty or the root of all evil. Then there's the opposite, money worship. That's the belief that if I just had more money, all my problems would disappear. Third is money status. This is the keeping up with the Joneses script. Your self-worth is totally tied to your net worth. And last, there's money vigilance. These are the super savers, the people who are so anxious about money they forget to actually enjoy life. Odds are one of these is your go-to script, even if you don't realize. And here's the kicker. Something the financial psychologist Brad Klontz really emphasizes. These scripts are almost always running on autopilot. They're unconscious. And that's what makes them so powerful, right? They're often tangled up with our deepest childhood needs, feeling safe, feeling like we belong. Just figuring out which script you're running, that is the absolute first step to taking back control and rewriting. Okay, so now that we know about these scripts, what do we actually do about it? How do we start rewriting them? Well, the very first step is to build what I like to call your financial fortress. This is all about moving away from that constant nagging anxiety and into a place of real, solid security. And I really want you to listen to this. Stop thinking about an emergency fund as just a pile of cash sitting in a bank. It is so much more than that. I want you to think of it as financial anxiety medication. Seriously, it's the single most effective prescription you can get for that pit in your stomach. It's the buffer that lets you actually sleep at night, because a flat tire isn't going to send your whole world spinning off its axis. And believe me, the need for this medication is absolutely urgent. Just look at these numbers from a Ramsey Solutions study. It's wild. Almost half of Americans couldn't cover their basic expenses for even 3 months. And a third have no savings at all. That is the financial fragility we were talking about, right there in black and white. And that creates this constant, low-grade stress that just wears you down. But look, building this fortress, it doesn't have to be this huge, scary thing. It really just comes down to 3 pretty simple steps. Step 1, just get to $1,000. That's it. Focus on that one small goal and get that first win on the board. It feels amazing. Step 2, figure out your bare bones survival number. And I mean bare bones, not what you spend now, but the absolute essentials you'd need for 3 to 6 months. Then, step 3, and this is the magic key. Automate it. Set it up so that your savings comes out of your account just like your Netflix subscription or your electric bill. It's a bill you pay to your future self. No excuses. Okay, so you're making progress, you're building that fortress, but then a new villain sneaks onto the scene. It's called lifestyle creep, and it is a silent wealth killer. You know how it goes, right? You get a raise, and all of a sudden that daily Starbucks run or that fancy gym membership shifts from being a nice to have to a can't live without. Your spending just quietly expands to match your new income, and you end up right back where you started, with nothing extra to show for it. So how do you fight back? A really simple but powerful way is to use a clear framework, something like the 70-20-10 rule. It's super straightforward. Of your take-home pay, 70% goes to all your essentials, your housing, food, transportation. 20% is for you, for fun, for the non-essentials. And that last 10%, that is non-negotiable. It goes straight to your financial goals, savings, investments, paying down debt. This basically forces you to put your future first, automatically.
All right, building that emergency fund, that's your defense. It makes you secure. But if you want to be truly free, you have to start playing offense. We have to shift our focus. It's time to move beyond just living paycheck to paycheck and start building real, lasting wealth. And to do that, it is absolutely critical to understand the massive difference between being rich and being wealthy. They are not the same thing. See, being rich, that's about having a high income. It's flashy, but it's often tied to a stressful job, and it can disappear in a heartbeat. Being wealthy is totally different. It's about owning assets, things like stocks, real estate, maybe a business, that generate income for you. Your money is working for you even when you're not. So, what's the magic number? What does it take? Well, a recent survey from Charles Schwab asked people this, and the average American thinks you need a net worth of $2.5 million to be considered wealthy. Whoa. I mean, that is a big, intimidating number for sure. But here's the secret. The path to get there isn't some giant leap. It's built on a foundation of small, consistent habits. And the single most powerful habit you can build, it's that same thing we talked about before, automation. Seriously, think of this system as your financial superpower. The second your paycheck hits your account, before you can even think about it, money is automatically whisked away to your savings and investment accounts. Then your bills get paid automatically, and you just live on what's left. It completely takes willpower and emotion out of the game. You're paying your future self first, and you don't even have to think about it.
Now, what if debt is the big thing standing in your way? Well, this is where that whole psychology versus math thing comes back in a big way. On one hand, you've got the debt avalanche. This is the math nerd approach. You attack the debt with the highest interest rate first, and mathematically, you'll save the most money. But then there's the debt snowball. Here, you focus on psychology. You pay off the smallest debt first, regardless of the interest rate, to get a quick win. And that win gives you this huge boost of motivation and momentum. So which one is better? Honestly, the best method is the one you'll actually stick with, period. And all of this, it brings us to the final and honestly, probably the most important piece of this whole puzzle. Because this journey, it's not just about piling up as much money as possible. It's about knowing when to stop. It's about defining your own finish line. Which leads me to what should be a non-negotiable rule for everyone. Your financial plan has to let you sleep at night. I love this quote because it just says it all. If your portfolio is keeping you awake with worry, it doesn't matter what its returns are. It's the wrong portfolio for you. You've already lost the game. Remember, the goal isn't just maximum returns, it's maximum peace of mind. And so, that brings us to the ultimate question you have to answer for yourself. What is enough? What is your enough number? Not what your neighbor thinks, not what you see on Instagram, but what is truly enough for you? What does a life of genuine contentment and security actually cost? Because if you don't define that finish line, you will be stuck on a hamster wheel for the rest of your life, always chasing more. Because at the end of the day, getting good with money isn't really about mastering the stock market. It's about mastering your own mind. It's about understanding your own fears, your own motivations, and your personal definition of a life well lived. That's why the best investment you will ever make isn't in some stock or fund, it's in self-awareness. That's where the real returns are.